Now that we've set the exposure, we're going to move our way to the left in our first color correction, and we're going to move over to saturation. Saturation is the presence of color in your clip. And the CineStyle, which we are using in our Canon cameras, is a very, very flat color profile, meaning it is somewhat desaturated. The camera is not adding as much saturation as it would by default. And what that has done is it's reduced the amount of color that is in the video clip, but it has also allowed for us to get a little bit more contrast, or the slightly more information between the brightest whites and the darkest darks, and that gray data in between comes through with a little bit more information. And so it's a great opportunity for us to get extra information, and also gives us the ability to add back some saturation where we see fit, and a little bit more creative control. So with saturation selected, you notice it has the same four sliders. It has a global, a shadow, a midtone, and a highlights. So highlights being the brightest whites, the midtones being those middle grays, and then the shadows being the darkest, blackest portions of the image. We're able to tweak the amount of color in those portions of the video clip. To do this, I'm just going to leave the vector scope open. A lot of this I like to do by eye. And I'm going to start off by just making a global adjustment and bumping and adding a whole bunch of color into this clip. Now if you go too far, you'll notice that the vector scope, all the data is being scaled up. It's growing. They're throwing more color into those areas. And what that means is this extreme spike, the color of the exit sign in the background, that's one extreme spike, and you're seeing that thing grow, and so it's becoming even more intense and oftentimes very distracting. So you got to be careful adjusting the global slider, and you got to be careful adjusting any of these sliders when it comes to saturation, because you don't want it to become a distracting element in your video clip. But we do want to add just enough to begin to notice some color detail, especially in Emily's skin. And again, the background, which is very, very gray with our slider down at 0. So we're going to bump the global up a little bit. I'm going to probably take a look at it at about 45. And then work my way through and play a little bit with the highlights, the brightest portions of the clip. Brightest portions are typically, again, where you're getting an awful lot of light on the walls, your skylight, or actually your overhead lighting, where the brightest portions of your image are, and how much color exists in those portions of the clip. So I'm going to actually elevate this a little bit to give a little bit more skin color. If I go a little too crazy with the midtones, however, you'll start to see extremes pop out in skin tones. You'll also see the background begin to have the wooden closet in the background of this messy hallway, and the sign as well. These are where midtones exist. These aren't the brightest parts in the image, but if you crank up the color on them, you'll get some very, very distracting, not very appealing portions of the video. So I'm going to bump this. I don't really need to bump too much in my midtones. I'm going to come over and play around a little bit with the darkest portions of the clip in my shadows. And what I'll notice, if I bump the shadows up, I'm getting a very, very purpley looking shirt color, and also the locker colors. These colors are very extreme, and obviously not the color of the lockers in the hallway and or Emily's shirt. So I can bump this up a little bit to try and get myself to maintain a natural looking color, but also to have that shirt pop a little bit more blue into it. And again, as long as nothing appears to be too crazy. What you'll notice is in these fine adjustments, you're able to now stay away from flaring out that exit sign too far. And again, that lived primarily in the midtones. And you're also able to adjust your highlights and skin tones and target specific portions of the clip based on how bright or how dark it is, using the three shadow, midtone, and highlight sliders. So what we've done here is given us some color back into our our video clip. This looks much richer. Again, this is a place where style is modified, and you have many Hollywood movies now that are using very desaturated portions of clips, and we'll get into a little bit more advanced techniques where we can target certain colors to make sure that they are accent colors, for instance, in telling a story, where maybe a bright red is a key to the story, or you want a specific mood, we can throw the color in a specific direction. But for now, we want this to be told as true to life and as possible, and so we reintroduce some color back to have a nice rich looking image without anything too crazy. And again, this is a good place to be with your basic color correction. In the next short video clip, we're going to go and double check Emily's skin tone to make sure she looks that her skin tone doesn't appear too red or too blue or too green, and we do that again using the vector scope and a shape mask, and we'll do that in the next video.